Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and in this segment today, we are going to discuss about the hottest topic that has been in the news now, the Pandora papers. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains papers. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at. These are the topics that we are going to discuss step by step, starting with the news. So, the International Consortium for Investigative Journalists have again come up after the Panama, Paradise and FinCEN papers, the Pandora papers that have leaked data about the offshore wealth which has been amassed by many politicians, celebrities, actors, sports stars and even heads of states in different regions in order to have tax avoidance and also for many other liability aversion. So this is what we are going to discuss. Let's start with what are Pandora papers. These are basically the leaked 11.9 million files from 14 global corporate services firms which set up about 29,000 off-the-shelf companies and private trusts in not just obscure tax jurisdictions but also many other important countries such as the Singapore, New Zealand and the United States for clients across the world. That means the global corporate service firms. These are the trusts we are talking about, or the service firms, and of course the off-the-shelf company and private trusts, which is established not just in the conventional tax avoidance jurisdictions such as the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, but many other countries as well. That means these firms are existing in many countries such as the Singapore, New Zealand and United States, and ultimate ownership of assets which are settled in private offshore trusts and the investment. Now, from a layman's term, I can teach you here that whatever asset in terms of cash, in terms of stocks and shares, in terms of real estate, a person in order to avoid liability in the country or of residence or of business is settling those assets in different parts of the different world. And this is what has been leaked. So as you can see from this map, we have many important trusts and firms by the name of Commence Overseas Limited, that is in British Virgin Island. It will be intriguing to know that approximately 2/3 of the leaked details about the assets held are in the British Virgin Islands. Then we have SFM and Trident Trust in Switzerland. We have in Seychelles the Abol company, and in Singapore as well, in Hong Kong as well. So there are so many trusts that have been named by the ICIJ. And this shows that these many companies have with themselves as trustees parked surplus assets so that they can provide service to their creators or the settlers, and in of course in benefit of that, these settlers that are actually living in, suppose in India, they can have tax avoidance and no liability, or their assets which are parked here have no liability to the creditors. Okay, so this is all. So this is going to show you the graph of different continents and in which trust fund it is there. Okay, so Alcogal City Trust, Trident Trust, Asia City Trust, Fidelity OMC Group, these many trusts are handling surplus assets which are parked offshore by these many continents. Okay, let's move forward and talk about what are the other highlights of the Panama papers. Setup of complex multi-layered trust structure is the main reason why these assets are actually out of the reach of the income tax departments of every country. And these trust structure have been done for estate planning, okay, in jurisdiction with are loosely regulated for tax purposes, but characterized by airtight secrecy laws. Simple of the simplest I can make you understand here that because the structure of the trust is very complex, okay, we will know how, and the secrecy law is very lip tight there, but it is easily available for estate planning and succession planning. That means let's try to understand from here. Okay, so we have certain levels. First is the settler. This person is Y. This is a firm in which he or she has parked rupees 50,000. Now this goes out of the reach of the Indian government. This person is Indian. This goes out of the reach of the Indian government. Now this can't be taxed. And it is not illegal to have assets parked offshore. The settler has created the fund or the asset over here. This is the company M. Now we have another level here, that is of the trustees. Now the ownership of this 50,000 as parked in the company M has been under the trustee. Trustee is person X. Okay. So now X officially owns rupees 50,000. That means he is the owner. Now because even if the offshore asset is of the settler Y, this can't be taxed. Why? Now because the owner has become the trustee. At some places, settler also provides for a protector in order to supervise the trustee. Got it? I hope you have. Now he or she will supervise the trustee. Another one is the beneficiary. Now the beneficiary is, suppose, D. D is a person who will get the benefit of whatever is accruing to rupees 50,000. Now understand, I will tell you a relationship. Y and D are related as father and son. Father is the settler. He has created the amount and parked it with company M. Now which has the owner, trustee, which is Mr. X. X is being supervised by the protector that has been created by the settler itself. Now settler wants the beneficiary to be his son. Whatever amount as interest will accrue to him will not go to the settler but to the beneficiary. Okay, so this is the simplest way I could have made you understand. Now keep the structure in your heads so that whenever we go through points, different points with respect to these people, we will be able to understand it more precisely. Now, the reason why do we even need to have assets offshore? To hide the real identities through trust. As you know, I told you that the owner of this 50,000 has become the trustee. So now, settler's identity will not be revealed. Settler is the actual owner of 50,000. It will not be revealed. Who will be the owner? Trustee. So identity remains very clandestine. Also, and to distance themselves from the offshore entities so that it becomes near impossible for the tax authorities to reach them. And to safeguard investments in the form of cash, shareholding, real estate, art, aircraft, yachts from creditors and law enforcement. How? Now, as you can see, this 50,000 is not under the Indian jurisdiction now as it is parked offshore. So it will not be taxed. Or even if it will be taxed on in those areas where the tax rate is less. Okay. Secondly, in order to safeguard this money from creditors, suppose Mr. Y has taken loan and the creditor bank will have his or her balance sheet with them. But if this amount is parked offshore, the balance sheet will not be reflecting this amount. It will be saved. from the income tax departments and from the bank as well. So this is very simple. I hope you understood this. Panama versus Pandora papers. So Panama papers, they leaked the information about the offshore assets for the individuals, and the Paradise papers were also there, which dealt with corporates. Now, in Pandora, we could see that individuals, corporate, and many heads of state, approximately 35 heads of government or heads of states, former and present name have come. So, the actual Pandora papers are sharing and tearing in through the papers of the individuals of very prominent groups. Approximately more than 380 people are actually from India, and many prominent names are coming from it. So you can understand that the basic difference here is both are individuals in Panama and Pandora. But in Pandora, there is the nexus of trust and NRIs. I hope you have understood the trust factor. Now we will talk about NRIs. Let's move forward and understand what is a trust. Now trust is a fiduciary arrangement between the settlor, the trustee and the beneficiary. But it is not illegal to have a trust. In India, according to Indian Trust Act of 1882, trusts are recognized by the Indian government, and it is not a legal entity, but the trustees are under the obligation to hold and give back, or whenever called for, take care of the amount for the beneficiary. Okay? And is setting up a trust in India or one offshore or outside the country is illegal? As I told you, Indian Trust Act of 1882 does not consider it illegal. So basically, we must understand that these offshore assets are not illegal in nature. But the basic premise is that as it is outside the ambit of the tax jurisdiction, there needs to be a law which actually checks the black money which has been converted into white there. Moving on, if it's legal, what's the investigation about? Investigation is only about the embarrassment that it is going to create on the national heroes, as they have been acclaimed from different groups about different sports stars, actors, celebrities, and the most accountable people that are in India in a democratic structure, that is the Indian government. If the head of states like the Sheikh Prime Minister is going to face an election later this week, his name has also come as parking offshore assets. Now that is going to create embarrassment, because people such as these are hailing corruption-free country, but they themselves are not accountable in terms of finances and honesty to their own country. So that is the first thing. Secondly, now why are trusts set up and why overseas? There are certain reasons. First, why cannot I just have a bank account in Swiss bank and park my surplus there? Because trusts will maintain a degree of separation. I have already explained you how will I be separated, as the 50,000 rupees will be under the ownership of the trustee and not the settlor. So there is a difference. Hunt for enhanced secrecy. As there will be a distance created, the income tax department will be having to go through different veils of secrecy. First, they have to reach the trustee. Then the trustee will tell them that these many secret laws are existing, so we can't tell you the name of the person who has created this fund, right? And then the income tax department, under different country income tax laws, will have to wait for many months for actually getting into the roots of the problem. Moving forward, the avoidance of tax in the guise of planning, in the sense that if I have created or as a settler I have put some funds or real estate in any other country, what will happen? I will claim that this is for the beneficiary and I am planning for my succession. But it might be that I am parking my surplus fund in order to avoid tax and liabilities. Prepare for a state duty eventuality. It has been saying that recently it was seen that state duty might be reintroduced. State duty was abolished in 1985. What is state duty? State duty is basically when a death of a person passes on the financial legacy to the successor and the successor is then taxed on that. So that is a state duty. It was as high as 85% when it was abolished. So reintroduction of that is also creating a lot of ruckus. Flexibility in a capital controlled economy. India is a capital controlled economy. And if a person is an Indian citizen, only $250,000 can be actually, it can be under the RBI scheme sent abroad for parking, for investment purpose. But if a person turns into NRI under the FEMA Act, under FEMA, if a person turns into an NRI, he or she can send at least $1 million. So another loophole has been exploited. The NRI angle is such that, look at this diagram I made. If the trustee is Indian, then only the income tax department have the authority to get to this money. Even if the settler is or the beneficiary is Indian, it won't matter. But if the trustee is Indian, then only it can happen. If the trustee is a foreigner or an NRI basically, then nothing can be done of a bigger magnitude. Let's move forward and talk about the impacts of India on India. So many names have been of prominent players, sportspersons, actors, celebrities, politicians have been searched out, that it will of course be a blot on the reputation as an iconic figure. They are not giving back to the country as taxpayers for the betterment of their country. What impact will it have on India, where things such as COVID-19 pandemic, it has wreaked havoc in our economy. So that will be that. And the Black Money and Imposition of Tax Act 2015, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, Debt Recovery Tribunal, and many other important acts have been brought in order to make accountability, transparency, and responsibility at the crux of a better economy. What about that? Now, the Indian government has to think of, not only the Indian government, all the governments of the world have to think of some consolidated and firm act that can be implemented globally as well as in a decentralized manner to bring to justice and, of course, to bring to fore a non-loopholed, non-exploitative structure so that these trusts, even if they are not held accountable, the trusts, if they are not held accountable, the beneficiary, the settler and the trustees, and a proper law is to be made in a country such as India, where inequality is a lot, according to the Oxfam Inequality Report, and how it has exacerbated and it has actually deepened the division between the equals and the unequals. So we have to understand that as well. Moving forward, let's talk about our mains-based question. What are tax havens? Analyze the process of using offshore trusts for parking of surplus income to evade taxes. in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.